Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DEI Deathwatch, where we chronicle the downfall and the doubling down of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I am surrounded by the sounds of summer. I hope you can't hear it. I hope my audio setup is enough that it'll filter it out, but unfortunately, Mr. Leaf Blower decided to make an arrival and start doing his job just before I began broadcasting. So if you hear that in the background, you have my apologies. If it becomes particularly ridiculous, I may just pause and take a break, put up the please stand by sign. But anyway, yeah, so let me know. I mean, at some point, usually when they show up, their rounds take them literally in front of my window. I don't know if that's already happened or if that's gone by. If that happens, I may need to take a break because I probably couldn't hear myself think. So just a warning ahead of time, but either way, the show must go on. That being said, who's joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon? Boy, oh boy, so many people here. The Alexander, good afternoon. Walter Tomaszewski, hello. Breeze Feets, hello. Old Guy Gamer, good afternoon. I think I saw in here, Old Guy Gamer, that your first real day of retirement. Got fired on Friday, was going to resign today. Well, I guess that's good timing? Well, welcome to retirement, old guy. My father, last I checked, I think he is in his 26th year of retirement. So I hope similar for you. And I hope you're enjoying your first real day off. Hope I can add to the entertainment value of it in some way, shape, or form. Advocatus Diaboli, good afternoon. Shady Grin, hello. Who else is here? Anybody else? FKHC 2005, hello. Snortapoopas Cuber, hello. Oh, Alexander again. I clicked on you twice. Twice is nice. Kieverdam, good afternoon, and thank you, Kieverdam, as always, for providing the links to the GoFundMe's, guys, at the top of the chat box, pinned up there for our friends Twisted Skipster and Angela Arriaga. Twisted is raising money for his daughter's wrestling club, and Angela is trying to start up her own home-based business. If you guys can take a look at those, please do so, and if you can donate, that would be good as well. But if you can't, that's fine. But if you can share those out on social media, that would be appreciated. So thank you ahead of time for that, and thank you, Kieverdam, for providing the links. Mike Savage, Blarg. Who else is here? Anybody else? I thought I saw some other people's. Robert Pincus, good afternoon. Sabian187, hello. Morgan King, hello. Just another guy. Ooh, a live scribe. Well, I have yet to be dead, so I guess I'm always this way. Assassin of the Gray, hello. Somnamnul Nation, good afternoon. Anybody else? Mr. Blue, good afternoon. From the Reservoir Dogs. If I missed anybody, if anybody's lurking, if anybody's in the future, hello. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into our top story. Top story tinged with irony. University of Michigan's former DEI officer plans to sue, alleging racial discrimination. There's just something sort of schadenfreude about this. Just a little bit. But let's find out the details. A former University of Michigan diversity, equity, and inclusion officer who was fired last year plans to file a lawsuit against the school and its board of regents alleging racial discrimination. Rachel Dawson, not Rachel Dawes, this isn't Batman Begins, the former director of the university's Office of Academic Multicultural Initiatives, filed the notice of intent with the Michigan Court of Claims on June 10th. She claims she was treated differently than non-black employees at the university, which fired her in December. The University of Michigan issued a statement saying Dawson was terminated appropriately and the university would, quote, vigorously defend this matter, unquote. The filing alleges Dawson suffered damages, including, but not limited to, loss of income and earning capacity. Well, that is what happens when you get fired, yes. Impairment of her ability to work. Not quite sure how that one operates. Emotional and physical distress. You lost your job. You weren't pushed off a ladder. Loss of reputation. I think that's up to you. Humiliation and embarrassment. Well, I think that all started when you started pulling a paycheck for pushing discriminatory policies on the campus of an educational institution. I mean, nice work if you can get it, but you made that your career. Dawson was fired on December 10th for actions that represented, quote, extremely poor judgment, according to the university, after she was reported to have made anti-Semitic comments in a conversation at a conference in March. Oh. Oh. Okay. I'd love to know what she said. The Court of Claims notice also said she was cited for conduct regarding a pro-Palestinian protest at UM's Festifal event in August, where she advocated against student protesters being arrested by police. Oh, so she was encouraging or fomenting, let's say, exuberant protest. And she made anti-Semitic comments. According to documents the New York Times obtained last year through a Freedom of Information Act request, Dawson was accused of saying the university was, quote, controlled by wealthy Jews, unquote. Okay. Dawson's termination came just over a week after school officials announced UM would no longer use diversity statements in faculty hiring, promotion, or tenure. Well, that's a decision that was a long time in coming. Provost Lori McCauley announced the decision based on a recommendation from a UM faculty working group, and rather than just sort of common sense and the Supreme Court decision regarding affirmative action. Okay, well, whatever works for you. It also came amid high tensions at the university regarding its endowment investing in Israeli companies amid Israel's ongoing military campaign against Hamas in Gaza. The notice with intent to sue claims that in March 2024, Dawson was approached by two attendees at a conference held by the American Association of Colleges and Universities who began to ask her about rumors that Jewish students at the university had negative experiences on campus. Dawson allegedly responded that the university provides resources and support to students of all backgrounds and was doing its best to combat anti-Semitism, upsetting the two attendees because she, quote, did not simply agree with them that the University of Michigan harbored an anti-Semitic environment, unquote. So, wait a second. A couple of guys came up to her, asked her about negative experiences of Jewish students on campus, and she didn't immediately say, yes, the campus is anti-Semitic, and that's why she's being... What? I'm confused. One of the attendees, Naomi Yavne-Close, a professor at Loyola University, New Orleans, contacted the Anti-Defamation League after the conference and, quote, provided a false, fabricated, and decontextualized version of events, claiming Dawson made a number of statements that she never uttered, the filing alleges. Okay, so Dawson's claim is that because she did not affirm the obvious searching bias of the two individuals questioning her, therefore they made stuff up about her to get her out because she wasn't going along with the plan. Okay. Yavne Close did not immediately respond Friday afternoon to a request for comment. In August, the ADL contacted then UM President Santa Ono, I guess that's a cousin of Santa Claus, to complain about Dawson, although the group allegedly admitted it, quote, could not independently verify the claims, according to the court notice. Okay. Curiouser and curiouser. The university retained the law firm Covington and Burling LLP, which also serves as counsel for the Anti-Defamation League, to investigate the complaint, although Dawson denied making the statements and the investigation report acknowledged, quote, it is not possible to determine with certainty whether Ms. Dawson made the exact remarks attributed to her in the ADL Michigan letter, the filing said. However, the investigation concluded, quote, the weight of the available evidence supports the conclusion that Ms. Dawson made the statements, unquote. Well, if you can't determine with certainty, then what weight of evidence do you... Now you guys are confusing me. You guys are really confusing me. Dawson received a written warning from the university on October 15th that required her to complete a leadership course and anti-bias training on anti-Semitism, her notice said. The letter allegedly acknowledged that, quote, the exact substance of Dawson's discussion at the conference cannot be known definitively, unquote. Okay, well, let me back up my humor on this for a second. Because I have had some experience, and perhaps you have too, unfortunately, in life, it does happen to us, where I have been accused of and held to account for things I did not say or do. And I'll tell you, that is something I don't wish on my worst enemy, because I want people to be held to account for things that they do say and do, not for things they don't, because that's not right. So, if some testy individuals from the ADL were looking for an ally and they didn't immediately find one, and they decided to take action or make accusations that they can't quantify, that would decidedly make me unhappy. Miranda Stone is here, everybody. Hey, guys, do you know about Miranda Stone? Well, if you don't, let me tell you. And Mr. Leaf Blower is back. I don't know, like, how many more leaves are there to blow in the summertime when there's no leaves on the ground? I don't know. I think he's approaching. Oh, boy. Go away. Right up to my window. I don't know if you guys can hear that. If you can't hear it, I'll try to talk through it. Okay. I'll just try. If my brain can continue with that noise in my ears. Hopefully I'm louder than the leaf blower. Okay, let's see. Her termination, however, came after the letter warning was revoked. The letter warning came after the letter warning was revoked following UM Regent Mark Bernstein's alleged comment to Ono and other university officials that he was disgusted, and the only acceptable outcome would be for Dawson to be terminated immediately, according to the filing. Okay, well, if she was fired on the basis of rumor and allegation, that's not good. I don't care what position she held under a DEI context previously. When reached on Friday, Bernstein deferred comment to the UM Public Affairs staff. Sure, hide behind somebody else. University representatives did not immediately respond. Dawson's filing said she would seek a monetary judgment against the regents for lost wages and benefits, as well as emotional distress and exemplary damages. Okay, well, I must, like I say, revise myself. If she is sidewise being accused of being an anti-Semite without evidence and simply on the basis of allegation, and she was fired on that basis, that's no good. I'm not quite sure about the racial discrimination part. I didn't hear anything about that in here, but unless she's got this and the rest of it. In addition to Dawson's action, 8 former employees of the university are suing the Board of Regents, Ono, and several others, alleging they were fired and banned from working at the institution because they vocally supported Palestinians' human rights and called on UM to divest from Israel. I guess it depends in what fashion did you support. Did you join in on protests? Did you try to get students out of getting in trouble? Did you, I mean, or was it just saying your opinion? Gotta ask. The plaintiffs who filed their lawsuit last month in U.S. District Court alleged the UM Regents violated their constitutional right to free speech and wrongfully concluded that they had violated UM's violence in the university community policy, quote, putting an indelible stain on their employment record, unquote. Yeah, this is a mess. How many times in here did we see they could not substantiate the accusations? They could not substantiate the conversation where she supposedly said these things. If you can't substantiate it, then how are you firing her for cause? And if you can't substantiate it, why would you send her off for retraining? You know, like I say, I have to take it back. I'm starting to feel more than a little sympathy for Rachel Dawson. She might have been a fall guy here. I don't know. I mean, it's not like... I mean, the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, would never inflate the truth or lie towards their own ends, as we know. They never would, as history has shown. But anyway, Juliet good afternoon, or evening, as the case may be. Advocast Diablo, TLDR, the system she designed worked as intended, and she got hit in the... Not really. No, she didn't. This sounds like a frame-up. Or at least it has the whiff of a frame-up. So I don't know. Let's see. Audio good, leaf blower minimal. Okay, well, I'm glad it is minimal for you guys, because it was right in my ears for a minute there, and I thought I would lose my ability to enunciate. Like, if I have too many things going off in my ears at the same time, I can't concentrate. So anyway. Resolute Germ, hello. And Judafine, good afternoon. But yeah, so that's an interesting story. I'll be curious to see how that hashes out, because if the lawsuit proceeds without a settlement, the Board of Regents and the college are going to have to justify their termination of her. And if any of that is based on unsubstantiated accusations from an outside party without evidence... But I didn't see anything about race in there. I'm not quite sure what the racial element was. So, but anyway, there you go. That's our first story. Let's move on to the wonderful world of Virginia. And a story out of The Bulwark. And The Bulwark tells us, Virginia candidates show you can try to kill DEI, but you'll fail. Okay, well... How is DEI manifesting itself in Virginia candidates? I wonder. By what measurement do you say DEI is winning when it comes to the makeup of the Virginia candidates? Let's find out. Virginians have chosen their candidates for this fall's election, and if you are trying to murder DEI, they are your worst nightmare. The demographic diversity is spectacular in both parties. And already you lose the argument. Already you lose the argument. Before we've even heard their names, the only thing worth mentioning about them is what demographic they fall into. In a state whose first two governors were Patrick Henry and Thomas Jefferson, two women will face off for the top job. Oh. Do we even need to know anything else about them? Because, I mean, we know their gender, so obviously that's the important part. Former Congresswoman and CIA officer Abigail Spanberger, a white Democrat, and Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears, a black Republican, Jamaican immigrant, and Marine Corps veteran. Wow. I'm glad you put something of their own, like, merit at the end. Because otherwise, I might just think they were stand-ins for demographic split, as you said at the top. In the lieutenant governor race, it's conservative talk radio host John Reed, a Republican who recently came out as gay. So what? Versus Democratic State Senator Ghazala F. Hashmi, an Indian immigrant. Who cares? As for Attorney General, Democrat Gerald J. Jones, a black former state legislator, will challenge the Hispanic Republican incumbent, Jason Miyares. Miyares? These are the important things, guys. I mean, at least in the first bit there, we found out that we have a CIA officer and a Marine Corps veteran. Everything else is irrelevant. Race. I mean, I guess party affiliation is irrelevant for the sake of politics, but race, their immigration source, doesn't mean anything. And down here, we don't even hear much else except a black will challenge Hispanic Republican incumbent. Okay, so they're all sitting politicians to begin with. Okay, or former state legislators, so you're not really breaking any new ground here. All right, is this still a great country or what? Yeah. And it sounds like in every instance of the people that you listed, nothing about their demographic makeup means anything, but their experience sure does. Like if they have political experience or if they're former military or something, that's what I'd pay attention to. at least in part. I mean, I'd want to read their actual statements in trying to get my vote if I were a Virginia voter, because I don't just make my decisions based on aesthetics. Apparently, the Bulwark really cares about it. When I read off those candidate demographics out loud, okay, one straight white male in my vicinity joked that, quote, "This just proves everything's turned to shit for white men." And we all burst out laughing. Okay. How did you know he was straight? Don't get me wrong. The Donald Trump MAGA war on diversity, equity, and inclusion is deadly serious. I haven't seen it be deadly serious yet. I'm still waiting for, litigation to befall major companies. But okay, the truth is that those half dozen people were Pentagon leaders instead of politicians running in a general election. They'd be ousted by now, or at the least, apprehensive about their career futures. The truth is, if those half dozen people were Pentagon leaders instead of politicians running... What? If they were historic figures celebrated on federal websites, those pages would likely be wiped. Yeah, you know why those pages were wiped? By petulant compliance. People being activists in passive-aggressive nature. That's all it was. It's like, oh, well, if we can't have DEI in this organization anymore, I guess we have to delete all black people. If they were researchers in neglected health fields, their grants would be gone. Okay. Project leaders in shithole countries and continents, gone. Them, their projects, and their web presence. Well, you sound like a mature individual. Keep up with all of our articles. No, I don't want it. The same day the Virginia results were finalized last week, the Supreme Court upheld a Tennessee ban on gender-affirming treatment for transgender minors. Oh, you mean medical experimentation and mutilation of non-consenting children? Yeah, they did do that. The fact that you're trying to sugarcoat this tells me a lot. The straight-up ideological 6-3 majority said the ban did not violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. It doesn't. Do you know why? And the Trump administration said it was canceling specialized guidance for LGBTQ callers on a national suicide hotline. Oh, I just said the word. Now I can't monetize this stream. I said the S word out loud. And yet, a couple of days earlier, federal judge William Young ruled that the Trump administration must immediately restore some 800 grants awarded by the National Institutes for Health to study topics such as racial disparities and transgender health. Oh my gosh, a district judge attempted to block or overturn an order from the executive? I can't believe it. Guys, did you know that the judicial branch has the power to completely stop anything the executive branch does on any day of the week, no matter how small? I didn't either. We'll see how that holds up in court. Quote, I've sat on this bench now for 40 years, and I've never seen government racial discrimination like this. Is it true of our society as a whole? Have we fallen so low? Have we no shame? Unquote, the Boston-based district judge asked in announcing his decision. Studying racial disparities and transgender health. Ooh, look, that number's bigger than that number. We have to spend money on studying that gap in between. Because obviously that's racism. There could be no other explanation, singular or aggregate, that could result in that same outcome. No, it must be racism. Oh, and if there's a difference between the health of this demographic or the health of this demographic that calls itself transgender, obviously there must be discrimination taking place. There can't be any other explanation for it. Young is 84. So, he was appointed by conservative hero Ronald Reagan. So, and in those remarks, Young was paraphrasing the line that finally brought down Senator Joseph McCarthy and his Red Scare conspiracy hunts and blacklists that ruined so many lives and careers. Okay. So he can't come up with his own lines, is what you're saying. Back in the summer of 2016, when Trump was the newly crowned Republican nominee, when I think of a royal coronation, I don't think of Donald Trump because that was the result of a vote. You know who I think of? Kamala Harris. Anyway, a federal appeals court struck down a North Carolina voting law that was written expressly and with astonishingly open intent to suppress black votes. Given the way that you've characterized so many other things in this article in a completely disingenuous way, I have a tendency not to believe you. But anyway, I wrote a column about it, that's the author speaking, and a colleague put the word racism in the headline. I was squeamish, but didn't say no. So, you approved. I still hesitate to use racism or racist. And yet, what else could it have been in that case? Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously, if there was a disparity, I'm assuming, I could be wrong, that the whole article was based on a disparity in voting trends or something. Obviously, it must be racism. A difference in outcomes between racial demographics has to be the result of intentional discrimination. It could not be that there's one or several other things that could be going on. It's easier just to assume racism. Why think hard? Why do work? North Carolina lawmakers requested a study of racial voting patterns and then killed or restricted IDs, time periods, registration methods, and anything else black people relied on disproportionately to cast votes. Is that how it worked? I thought that black people couldn't get IDs. I was told that the longest time that voter ID laws were racist because obviously, and big quotation marks, black people don't know how to get a state ID or a driver's license or something. You can argue that it was a partisan move designed to ensure victory, but zeroing in on one race, ensuring that it's hard for black people to vote, is racism on its face. Okay, well, even though I know this is a lot to ask, please quote for me the language in the legislation you're talking about where it said, this applies to black people only. I have a distinct feeling that's not going to be the case. But anyway, that was before the 2016 election, and at the time I believed and wrote that Republicans had been, quote, accelerating their march to demographic, I've already said it once, might as well say it again, demographic suicide since Trump blared his hostility towards Muslims, Hispanics, and immigrants on the first day of his campaign, unquote. Though Trump won the Electoral College and the presidency, Hillary Clinton beat him by nearly 3 million votes that year. In the popular vote. And that means what? It's embarrassing to read that line now, especially after Trump grew his appeal to minority voters last year. How did he do that? How did he do that? I mean, a president that was so racist, so terrible, so dismissive of anybody who wasn't white, how did he grow his appeal to minority voters? Lots of people have sought to understand why that happened, and I won't try to explain it here. It's because as much as you want him to be, he's not as racist and discriminatory as you think or hope. I don't know if you know this. Maybe there's some statistics you need to look at, like the average earnings by people across all demographics during the first Trump administration. And then, in contrast, the earnings of all demographics under the Biden administration. The cost of living, the cost of essentials. It's the economy, stupid. Back to the author. I can only hope that it will fade as Trump continually overreaches on every front. Well, I won't argue with you that in the executive, he has been doing a lot of things with executive orders and presidential powers. And, if we did a whole audit of everything that he's done, I would bet you there's plenty of things, and I know there's a few things as well, that I don't agree with at all. But here's the thing. I've said it before, and I will continue to say it until something changes. Everything that Trump is doing right now or attempting to do is power and powers that have been promulgated to the executive over decades. He is taking advantage of the power that Congress has ceded to him over years and years and years. And by him, I mean the president. Because it could be Trump, it could have been Biden. Biden did a lot of things that were jumping the gun on law and congressional intent. I bet you guys weren't complaining about that so much. But guess whose job it is to restrain the executive when it comes to what powers he can and cannot enact and when? That would be Congress. And you know Congress is not going to act, right? The Republicans aren't going to try to hamstring their guy, and the Democrats are not going to try to hamstring their future guy. Both parties want all of the toys that they possibly can get for their executive representative to have when the time comes. So they will hem and they'll haw and they'll complain and they'll lean on district judges to try to temporarily put speed bumps in front of what Trump's doing. But without congressional action to clarify the law or put down other restrictions, he's just going to keep doing it. But Congress won't do that because they don't want to. All they can do is complain. They have the power to change it. They don't want to. Thank you, Kiro Soldier. More soft bigotry of low expectations. Yep. Yep, it's just, they can't help themselves. We have to help them. Obviously, they don't have the power to do anything. Obviously, they're voting for Trump because they're just deluded or something. Our author can't take the fact that minority support for Trump went up in the last election as a sign that he might be wrong. No, they're just deluded or something. And he's not going to go into why that happened right now. He won't even try to explain it. He can only hope it'll fade. The disruptions and dangers to healthcare, immigrants, tariffs, dangers of terror. Okay, corruption, war and peace, higher education, libraries, museums, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. And the entire system of checks and balances are manifest. There's hating on science while crushing on dictators. Yeah, look how Trump is crushing on dictators right now. Crushing them with bunker busters. But anyway, the abuse of pardon power. Okay. See, this is not an illegitimate complaint of Trump recently. He has pardoned people for reasons that make no sense and oftentimes for reasons that seem awfully corruptive. Millionaire con artists getting a complete pardon after $1 million donation. That kind of thing. And that's stuff that's happened. But if you want to talk about abuse of pardon power, dude, Biden. And obnoxious favoritism towards red states, political allies, anyone who adores him and or pays him off. Okay. Your complaints and concerns are valid. But I hate to tell you this. Where were you when Biden was doing the same thing? I bet you weren't saying a word about it. And of course, Trump's travel bans and restrictions against countries that are mostly black and brown, in contrast with the several dozen poor, pitiful white people of South Africa ceremonially invited and welcomed into the United States to escape their oppression, indeed their genocide, both thoroughly discredited. Yeah, there's no movement or organized hatred or violence against white people in South Africa, guys. It just doesn't exist. It just doesn't happen. And most of those countries that have travel restrictions, Saudi Arabia? Oh yeah, no, not Saudi. Yeah, golly gee whiz, there's a whole bunch of countries that don't. Probably because they don't pose a specific threat, or people they're from don't. But anyway, I'm getting less squeamish all the time about the words racism and racist, the labels white supremacist and white nationalist, and the bald truths about attacks on DEI called out by a Reagan judge born 84 years ago. I'm glad you're feeling more comfortable. I'm sure that you've been very reticent to use racism, racist, white supremacist, and white nationalist over the last, say, 10 years or so. I'm sure it's been very difficult for you. But now that you feel more comfortable with it, by all means, go ahead. It's a free country. Say what you want. Just like me. JB, afternoon scribinal, afternoon JB. Assassin the Gray, yeah, look at those hated demographics of Trump and you will find they hate America. Yeah. How racist was he? Well, he was so racist. I wish I had a comeback for that. I wish I had like Johnny Carson comeback for that one. How hot was it? Mr. Blue, if only there were other factors to things than racism or sex. I know, there aren't. You know, take a bar graph showing demographics, whether it's gender or race, and if there's a space between them or a differential, obviously it's an ism. No other factors involved. Nothing at all. It must be intentional, systemic, institutional ism. Obviously. Why bother thinking? Why bother reaching any further? Moving on. Let's talk about North Carolina. We'll go for the third seal on the thumbnail. What was North Carolina up to on Juneteenth? North Carolina Senate uses Juneteenth holiday to advance numerous bills, including DEI ban. Okay. I'll say it once because I've said it before. I'm not jazzed with states and jurisdiction passing specific DEI bans because they're unnecessary as far as I'm concerned. Simply conduct audits of organizations and institutions for compliance with existing civil rights laws. When you start saying we're banning diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, you get people doing, as I've said, petulant compliance like, oh, well, if I can't do inclusion anymore, I guess I'm just going to have to make sure everybody never comes back to my classroom because I include everybody in my classroom. That kind of stuff. But let's see how they did it and what they did. In a move that raised eyebrows and drew criticism from the members of the public and Democratic lawmakers, the North Carolina Senate Judiciary Committee on Thursday, the day of the national Juneteenth holiday, advanced a controversial bill to ban diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in state government. Juneteenth has been a federal holiday since President Joe Biden designated it as such in 2021. Yeah, one of the most glorious gestures of virtue signaling we've had in a while. But hey, I enjoyed my day off. It is an optional state holiday in North Carolina. An event long celebrated by Black Americans, Juneteenth commemorates the event that took place 160 years ago in which enslaved people in Galveston, Texas learned that they had been freed after the conclusion of the Civil War and 2 years after President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamations. While many businesses and government offices, including the North Carolina House of Representatives, were closed or on very limited schedules Thursday in observance of the holiday, that was not the case in the North Carolina Senate. In addition to placing nearly 20 bills on the chamber's calendar for floor debate, an unusually heavy load for a Thursday, which is normally a getaway day for lawmakers, and one on which 9 of the chamber's 50 members were absent, well, maybe they should have been there doing their jobs. Senate Republican leaders scheduled a busy slate of committee meetings. Several controversial proposals on topics that included the confirmation of a new Stein administration, cabinet secretary, I don't know who Stein is, must be some state official, concealed handguns, and gender-affirming health care were debated and approved in those meetings. But if there was a subject that seemed to raise the most questions of appropriateness on a national holiday set aside to lift up the end of the nation's original sin of human slavery, it was the decision to schedule in advance the DEI ban legislation, a bill that was approved on a party line vote on the House, on May 1st, and has resided in the Senate ever since. Oh yes, because as we know, DEI is anti-discrimination. DEI is anti-slavery. Right? Judiciary Committee co-chair Senator Buck Newton. Boy, if there ever was a name for a North Carolinian, Buck Newton saved the discussion of the issue for the end of a lengthy meeting, and the bill was presented by a freshman House Republican, Representative Brian Echeverria. Echevarria? Echevarria. I probably got that wrong. A lawmaker who was not one of the bill's chief sponsors, but who is the only person of color in the House Republican caucus. Oh, so should he not have been included because that was some kind of performative thing? Or should he have been included because that's an exercise of DEI? Which is it? In his presentation, can somebody tell me what, in phonetic terms, I want to pronounce this last name correctly. Can somebody tell me how I pronounce that last name correctly? Echevarria? Echevarria? Someone please tell me. And while I await some helpful linguist in the audience, Ames S., good afternoon. It goes okay. I didn't sleep a wink last night for reasons I can't quite understand. I'm running on fumes as it is. But I've got that sort of like sleep dep energy going on. I'm going to crash later. Boy, howdy. Let's see. No Kiefer Dam today. Oh, she was here earlier. I don't know if work took her away or if she's busy doing other things. Or did I miss? Maybe she said goodbye and I missed it. I apologize. Okay. Well, I want to know how to pronounce this name. How do I pronounce this name? I know. I'm doing a little self-educating. I'm going to educate myself. Pronunciation. Okay. Here we go. 1 second. Yes. Echevarria. Echevarria. Okay, I'm going to try that with a little bit of an accent. In his presentation, Echevarria framed the bill which seeks to ban all state government programs designed to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that would subject violators to large personal fines as a straightforward attack on racial discrimination, which he characterized as wrong in all forms. Well, again, I appreciate the intention. The delivery mechanism for this sentiment, I think, is completely unnecessary and just adds confusion to the issue. Echevarria struggled, however, to explain details of the legislation or to answer basic questions posed by Democratic Senators Lisa Grafstein, Sophia Chitlick, and Dan Blue regarding its mechanics or the intent of specific provisions. Like I say, make it everybody. If you have a friend, a cousin, if you yourself are a legislator in any of the states of the union, and if any of those states are considering pushing similar laws, please tell them, save everybody the time, the aggravation, and the money, and just say, we will be doing an audit of organizations and institutions that have declared themselves DEI friendly for compliance with existing civil rights law. Zip, zap, done. That's all you got to do. Are you keeping in line with Title VI? Are you keeping in line with Title VII? If the answer is yes, there's nothing to worry about. Yay, you're following the law. You're a law-abiding organization. If you accept federal assistance of any kind and you're discriminating through a DEI program on the basis of race, you risk losing your federal funding and other consequences. If you are hiring or promoting or not hiring and not promoting on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, then you're in trouble. You don't need to write new law. You don't need to try to explain some new convoluted DEI specific ban. Just tell people you're either following the law or you're not. And if you're not, we're going to come and get you. That's it. Anyway. So, yeah, they passed this thing that is difficult to define because the words are so broad in definition, and that's by design. When everything's already been provided for you. It's all right there. Wait, what's this? Apologies for having a different schedule. I feel terrible. Keeverdam, you are not allowed to feel terrible. Everybody tell Keeverdam she is not allowed to feel terrible. I don't usually make decrees on my shows of what my viewers should do, but I am telling you all right now, those of you who have been here a while, you know that Keeverdam is the den mother. She has nothing to apologize for. She has a day job, and she helps me out every single day that I stream. Tell her she has nothing to apologize for. JB, I do everything based on race. I gotta go fast, LOL. Oh, that. I think that was a joke. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, everybody send Keeverdam some good vibes today. The Mum. Good afternoon, if I didn't already say hello. So Keeverdam, turn that frown upside down, because I have, just for you, some advice from Forbes magazine. Oh boy, guys, it's Forbes magazine, the greatest cheerleader for DEI I've ever seen in magazine form. How can DEI still work? Well, I hate to tell you this, Forbes. That assumes that it ever worked in the first place. But okay, how can DEI still work? 3 strategies to pivot forward. Once again, by Julie Kratz. Julie Kratz, I think nearly every Forbes article on DEI cheerleading I've read in recent memory was written by Julie Kratz. You know, I would love to talk to Julie Kratz. Yes, but Julie is an allyship and inclusion keynote speaker and a college professor. So there you go. With headlines dominating the news cycle, the death of DEI to the downfall of DEI. Ooh, I say downfall too. It's time to learn from our past and pivot inclusion work forward positively. Oh, inclusion work. Oh, what happened to the diversity part? The backlash for DEI work has always existed. Yeah, well, I've been running this channel for nigh on 9 years now, yeah. Most recently, the pushback focused on specific parts of DEI. For example, hiring goals for diversity. You mean illegal hiring quotas? Yes. Were branded as DEI hires. Well, why not? What's wrong with that? I mean, if DEI is good, then someone being hired under a DEI program must also be a good result, right? And support for LGBTQ plus rights became a political stance. I hate to tell you this. It's always been a political stance, because calling for rights is a political stance. And I still, to this day, am not quite sure what an LGBTQ plus right is as compared to anyone else's rights. But anyway, in my interview with Paul Ladipo, CEO and founder of Critical Conversations Critical Conversations? Uh-oh, guys. Glenn Singleton has some competition here. Critical Conversations is not Courageous Conversations, but it's close. Anyway, CEO and founder of Critical Conversations Consulting, he said, quote, anti-DEI activists. Am I an activist? I don't know. Sincerely, and I'm asking sincerely, would you consider what I do activism? I'm not shying away from the label if that's accurate. I just never stopped to consider, am I an activist? I mean, I'm not lobbying for any legislation or anything, or trying to move the needle or anything. I'm just more of an observer. But I don't know. I suppose it's possible. Let's see. Anti-DEI activists started by picking on critical race theory. Well, I didn't start by picking on critical race theory. The critical race theory came on later. I mean, my first exposure to it was just D&I initiatives back in like 2016, 2017. Critical race theory I learned about later on, but that's just me. Keeverdam. Oh, Keeverdam. Thank you, but I don't want to apologize, but I feel like I need to due to working, eating, sleeping, driving, etc. I know you're probably sick of hearing me say sorry, though. Just thought I'd explain myself. Okay. At the risk of sounding chiding, Keeverdam, you do not need to apologize. And if you feel like you need to apologize, see rule number 1. You don't need to apologize. It's a very simple flow chart. The flow chart is titled, Does Keeverdam Need to Apologize? Next level down. No. And then you have a line off to the side, if Keeverdam feels the need to apologize, and then a line goes straight back up to no. So that's it. It is a 3-loop flowchart. That's it. And I appreciate that you take this seriously. And I very much do. I very much thank you. But again, got nothing to apologize for. And also, thank you so much for your generosity. Given the content of the message, I don't think I deserve a tip for your feeling bad. That seems a little odd, but I will pay it forward in some fashion. Thank you so much. But anyway, so take a deep breath, relax, and you have nothing to apologize for. Just want to get that clear. I know you feel that way. I get that too. You know, it's like when somebody gives me a compliment, I'm not quite sure how to take it. It's a tough habit to break. I know. Well, chat, you and I, we are going to break Keeverdam. Oh, wait, that doesn't sound right. We are going to encourage Keeverdam to more healthy thoughts of herself. That's what we're going to do. Yes? Okay. Let's all make that effort. Moving on. Let's see. I'll back up slightly. The backlash for DEI work has always existed. Most recently, the pushback focused on specific parts of DEI. For example, hiring goals for diversity were rebranded as DEI hires, and support for LGBTQ+ rights became a political stance. In my interview with Paul Ladipo, CEO and founder of Critical Conversations Consulting, he said, quote, anti-DEI activists started by picking on critical race theory. Once that gained steam, it spread to diversity, equity, and inclusion. No, Paul. No, you've got it backwards. It started out with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then as people started, reverse engineering DEI and finding its origins in CRT, then CRT became more prominent. But then you probably weren't paying attention the way I was back in the olden days and so on. Anyway, then DEI became under attack at the state and university level to becoming the rationale for plane crashes. Paul has a very mixed up and very summary review of recent history. Lapido sees many organizations continuing DEI under different framing, pivoting to words like inclusion, belonging, or culture. Yes, because those 3 words have never been used before in conjunction with DEI initiatives. I should know, or I should not know. He recommends leaders learn from the backlash and go beyond surface-level problems, focus on the long-term legacy impact of the work, and let go of the idea that everyone has to be an ally. Okay, well, how's that going to work? All right, step number 1, go beyond surface-level problems. Most people know social causes at a surface level. Okay, they do not understand the more complex reasons why racism or sexism exist and how to navigate them. If they understood the issues more deeply, they would not have fallen for DEI backlash, Ledipo proposed. Everybody's stupid, everyone. If only they were as smart as I am, they wouldn't be against DEI. Okay. Despite the recent backlash, most people want DEI work at their organizations. I'm pressing X to doubt. People cite DEI improving their employee experience and broadening their talent pipelines, leading to higher rates of innovation and business outcomes. Really? Well, I've been waiting nearly a decade. Please tell me the success story poster child company where DEI has led to measurable innovation and business outcomes, where you can draw a direct line between the initiation of DEI and a profit increase. I've been waiting 10 years. Lay it on me. Once people understand how issues of inclusion affect them and those they work with, they have greater empathy and connection with their teams. Oh, so again, everybody's stupid until they understand something. even though DEI has been broiling up for a decade, people still don't get it. We just haven't tried real DEI yet, guys. I mean, what's been going on the last 10 years? It's not real DEI. We have better DEI coming. That's why we have to keep changing the names and moving the chairs around on the Titanic. Reframe DEI as legacy work, okay? Lapido. I want to say Lapido. It's Latipo. Latipo acknowledges that the DEI pushback will take a long time to heal from. Okay. Uncertainty and massive change take a toll on people over time. It is not sustainable to go through waves of pro-inclusion and anti-DEI with the news cycle. People crave consistency in times of uncertainty. Okay, and so what's your plan? Centuries of inequality will not be solved overnight. You're right. And when you're pushing DEI, which is a system that credits people for what they look like and denigrates others for what they look like, you're right. Centuries of inequality will indeed not be solved overnight because you guys keep trying to drag them back into mainstream use. So, it is legacy work. It necessitates having a plan, goals, and metrics to monitor over time. Yes, quotas, everyone. Quotas. Holy cats, Assassin of the Gray. Thank you so much. That is as truthful as illegal aliens commit the fewest crimes and are a net contributor to America. Yes. You know, DEI is obviously a benefit to innovation and business outcomes because we say so. And just as an aside, I was thinking about this the other day. I was trying to think about like different times I'd heard immigration concerns discussed on like news shows and, you know, like 60 Minutes type stuff and other interview things over the years. And I know this isn't a new revelation, I'm sure, but it just occurred to me. Oftentimes I'm told, and when I say I'm told, I mean by, you know, experts and officials and things, that undocumented immigrants, illegal immigrants, contribute so much money and labor, specifically labor, to the workforce and everything else, that if they all just disappeared, all went back to their countries tomorrow, the entire nation would collapse. At the same time, I'm told that the notion that illegal immigrants are taking everybody's jobs is a complete myth. So I'm like, well, these two things can't be true at the same time, right? Because if taking everybody's jobs is a myth, then their having to not be here wouldn't crash the economy, right? Except that if they're not here, the economy would crash because they take up all the jobs that... Anyway, I always found that a little mind-boggling. But thank you, Assassin the Great. It's very generous of you. Appreciate it. Let's see. So, legacy work. Centuries of inequality will not be solved overnight. DEI is a long game. It is legacy work. It necessitates having a plan, goals, and metrics to monitor over time. Tying DEI to the business and human cases can emphasize the long-term nature of DEI with specific actions tied to a broader strategy. Tying DEI to the business and human cases. Right. Whatever that's supposed to mean. Okay, here we go. Except not everyone is an ally. Ooh. Be wary of the hidden enemies in your midst. Quote, following the Civil War, and we all remember that part of history, don't we, guys? Remember following the Civil War? Following the Civil War, we saw the rise of Jim Crow discriminatory laws. Discriminatory laws. Discriminatory? Discriminatory. Okay, admittedly, it might be the poverty of my vocabulary. Discriminatory. Maybe I'm having some kind of aphasia or something. Anyway, Jim Crow discriminatory laws. After the Civil Rights Act, there was an increased focus on securing the Southern vote by appealing to white grievance politics. There will always be a part of the population that resists social change, Latipo cites. Well, here's the thing, Latipo. DEI is pulling us backwards. DEI is taking from the dustbin of history the worst ideas when it comes to evaluating people and repackaging them as a virtue. You either cannot see that or are choosing not to see that. Either way, you're not in a position to criticize others for resisting the social change you're looking for. DEI is about meeting people where they are. You know what? I have heard that phrase or something like it so many times, and I still have absolutely no idea what it's supposed to mean. It sounds like such balderdash. You know, corporate nonsense speak. We need to meet people where they are. I mean, I try to define that in my head like, okay, you just need to like be realistic about the people you're talking to. Is that what you mean? Okay, so let's take that definition on board for a second. DEI is about meeting people where they are on their learning journeys. If people are not ready or are not interested in allyship, it cannot be forced upon them. Okay, well, you know what? You're correct. But what have DEI and such trainings been doing for the last decade? If you're only learning this fact now, I don't know what to tell you. Co-Qual's research, what's Co-Qual? Co-Qual's research finds that the overwhelming majority of people want to or are pursuable as allies. You can pursue anybody, I guess. Yet 10% of people remain naysayers. We cannot want this work for everyone, yet 90% is reachable. We cannot want this work for everyone, yet 90% is reachable. The future of DEI may be uncertain, yet despite the backlash, accepting not everyone is an ally, reframing as legacy work, and going beyond surface-level problems are pivots leaders need to consider to move forward successfully. Gosh, you'd think after 10 years of work on this, you would have already figured some of this out, but apparently you still haven't because it's still not working. Here's a question for you. Why do you still need to keep making the case for DEI if it's provably good? If it's provably positive, why do you have to keep making the case? Also, Kirsten Scholl over on the X Machine. I keep forgetting to mention, I'm also simulcasting on X, guys. So if you have an X account and want to log in over there and see the stream going on over there, by all means, do retweet it or share it, all that good stuff. Let's see. Shiro Amada, I have bingo. B-I-N-G-O, 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 and bingo was his name. Do you have a dog? Or were you able to get a bingo out of that article? I haven't done article bingo yet. I probably should. Advocast Diaboli, that North Carolina bill was specific to banning mandatory training, DEI officers, and diversity consideration in hiring for schools. It was not the vague DEI ban that the article made it out to be. Okay, all right. I mean, good on North Carolina. There have been plenty of other states that have been not so specific. So I always get a little... At the same time, I credit to North Carolina for being more narrow in their definitions. I still say that all of it is unnecessary. If they want to pass a new initiative to audit organizations that promote DEI for compliance with civil rights laws, that kind of thing, fine. Or create a commission or something to review such organizations, fine. But passing new laws that just layer up on top of existing civil rights laws things that can already be checked. But okay. All right. I mean, the lesser of two weevils, as it were. But thank you. Thank you for the research. Hoko Sports, good afternoon. And Mike Savage, wait, that was in Forbes? I guess Forbes fired their editors for lack of diversity because they wanted correct spelling and grammar. Well, you know, I can write. I can't always speak very well. I do my best. I was thinking about this today. Why I was listening to somebody on, it was like a podcast or something, and I kept thinking to myself, boy, they're using a lot of $5 words, and it feels a little forced. But then I thought, you know, why do you, scribe, why do you make an effort to, you know, increase your vocabulary and express yourself in a more articulate fashion and so on? And I remembered, I don't know if you guys have seen it, some of you oldies may have, long ago, the Civil War documentary by Ken Burns. Excellent documentary. We were talking about the Civil War earlier in the article. In the course of that documentary, for those of you that don't know, in telling the tale of the Civil War in sort of a quasi-chronological order, several letters written by people during that time were read by celebrity voices. So you'd have letters from soldiers, you'd have letters from civilians and politicians and journalists and so on. And I remember listening to that when I was a kid, and I was so taken by the seemingly casual poetry and beauty of language being used by everyday people back then, just for, you know, relatively simple correspondence. And as time went on, it feels like the art of communication has been squandered in a way. I mean, I try to write an occasionally well-worded email, but most of my communications with people are like short little sentences or, you know, little shorthand. I try, unlike a lot of people, to use complete sentences instead of like the letter U for the word you or other things. But even then, I can see that, you know, just basic communication has kind of taken a hit over the last several generations. So, yeah, so I made it a point that as much as I could, and I don't claim to be an expert, I would try to increase my vocabulary and more thoroughly express myself at every opportunity. Of course, I can sound like an idiot like the next guy when I want to, just like now. But anyway, our last story is one that is a mystery to me, because just in the title, I haven't read anything more, and I'm not quite sure what the punchline is. I can imagine, so let's go over the headline real quick. National Monument honoring Emmett Till at risk of removal due to Trump's anti-DEI initiatives and budget cuts. Okay, so let me take a drink there for a second. Is there something actually true about this? Or is this just another example of some pearl clutcher making for some petulant compliance in order to make it seem like without DEI, therefore no black people? Because that seems to be the through line here, doesn't it? Right? Because, oh, well, if you do anti-DEI, that means that Jim Crow is going to come roaring back. Let's find out. Tallahatchie County, Mississippi. There are 138 national monuments across the U.S., but for the first time in nearly 100 years, they're eligible to be sold for parts. This Juneteenth, some of the protected lands in jeopardy commemorate important moments in American civil rights history, including some newer monuments like the Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley National Monument. Quote, go away. What are you pop-ups? Quote, we are seeing this effort to erase and reverse history and historic preservation, said historian Alan Spears, Senior Director of Cultural Resources and Government Affairs for the National Parks Conservation Association. Quote, this is turning quickly into a dream deferred, unquote. Nice quote. Spears advocated for years alongside several community members to get federal protections for the areas in Mississippi and Chicago that tell the story of Emmett Till, a 14-year-old Chicago boy who was kidnapped in the middle of the night and brutally lynched in 1955 after reportedly whistling at a white woman while visiting family in Mississippi. Quote, his badly decomposed body was taken from the water and officials in this area wanted to have him buried immediately to sort of get rid of the evidence, Spears explained. Quote, his mother insisted that he be sent back to Chicago where they had an open casket funeral, and images of Till's badly decomposed body in that open casket really sparked the modern civil rights movement, unquote. Okay, you got me so far. Protections to preserve this history finally came in 2023 when a monument consisting of 2 sites in Mississippi and 1 in Illinois were designated by former President Joe Biden. One site is located at Graball Landing along the Tallahatchie River near Glendora, Mississippi, where Till's body was found. The second is at the Tallahatchie County Courthouse in Sumner, Mississippi, where his confessed killers were found not guilty by an all-white jury. The third is located at Chicago's Roberts Temple Church of God in Christ, where Till's funeral was held. Okay? Spears said he and his colleagues have been working to expand the monument, not remove or shrink it. I mean, 3 separate locations across 2 different, states is pretty good. Quote, let's make sure it doesn't happen to anybody else's son ever again, Spears said. I agree. I think society and the law has kind of significantly moved on from 1955 in that regard, but okay. But just as the stroke of a president's pen preserved these areas, it could now take them away. It could. Okay. A legal opinion released by the Justice Department earlier this month gives presidents the ability to revoke or shrink certain national monuments for the first time since the 1930s. Okay. The opinion comes as part of a movement against diversity, equity, and inclusion, with some land reportedly under consideration to be used for mineral extractions. That's a combination I can't say I'm aware of. So anti-DEI means pro-mineral extractions. Okay, it's not just national monuments that are at risk. Under newly proposed budget cuts for the National Park Service of nearly $1 billion, Spears said more than 300 park sites would be forced to shut down. Those budget cuts could also potentially see the closure of the Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley National Monument, according to Spears and former National Park Service Director Chuck Sams. Okay, so there's no specific threat to the closure of these monuments, but the possibility exists. Okay, quote, it's like amputating an arm for a hangnail. It's a complete overreaction, Spears said. But they haven't shut down those monuments. Have they said they would? Sam says the agency has lost 13% of its staff already since he left his post earlier this year. Well, was the money being spent wisely? Did you need that much staff? Was there overhiring? Sams was involved in the designation of 5 different national monuments signed by Biden, including the Till Monument. He says if the monument were to close, it would be, quote, very sad and egregious. I'm hearing a lot of ifs, maybes, could be, potentially here. Quote, people don't like to look at their past when it shows a negative light of who we are, and I can understand that nobody likes to look at their own personal past that may have a negative light, but we also know that in order to learn from our own history, we also have to learn from our past mistakes, Sams told CBS News. Yes, therefore, let's tear down all monuments related in any way, shape, or form, even tangentially, to the Civil War from the losing side of the battle. Anyway, moving on. Quote, and we as Americans have never been actually scared to do so, and I don't think we should be now. What evidence do you have that the Emmett Till monuments are going to be taken down? We look at our past, and we know that from our past mistakes that we have become stronger. I'd like to think that. In some instances, I'm not really seeing that, but anyway. Currently, the Chuckwalla National Monument and Satitla Highlands National Monument, both located in California, are under consideration for revocation or being sold for parts. You know, I know this is... I may not be the greatest geography student, but I think California is a bit of a ways away from Mississippi and Illinois. I mean, I could be wrong. The badge, I'm going to completely screw this. I'm not even going to try. It would be offensive of me to attempt to pronounce this. The ancestral footprints of the Grand Canyon National Monument is also under consideration, reportedly due to its uranium supply. I'm hearing a lot of maybes, reportedly, could be's, might, under consideration. Judy Cummings is touring America's national monuments this summer with her daughter and granddaughter. I couldn't care less. Your vacation plans mean nothing to me. According to a recent study, about half the current national parks first began as national monuments, including the iconic Grand Canyon. According to Spears, every $1 invested in a national park site returns about $15 to the communities that it is located in. Quote, that's an enormous return on investment, Spears said. It is also an investment in the visitors, too. Okay. This is, barring more information or something more definitive, fear-mongering. This is fear-mongering and accusations of oncoming racial, I don't know, discrimination against monuments? Okay, well, thanks for nothing. You know, the sun has the possibility of not rising tomorrow, everyone. We need to invest in artificial sunlight now. Increase my budget for my artificial sunlight machine because it's entirely possible that the sun might not actually rise tomorrow because it's a possibility of mightness and could be. So, pony up that dough. Quick. Anyway. Breeze Feats. The letters exchanged between John and Abigail Adams are beautiful. Same with Walt Whitman. How the fuck does I Sing the Body Electric exist as language? I know. It every time I listen, and you can find portions of it on YouTube and clips and things. Some of the celebrity readers and such. It just blows me away every time. You know, and it sort of like acts as a encouragement. It's like, you know, human beings can be this expressive and meaningful in their communication. You know that's true, right? You can do that too. You're a human being. Hey, scribe, you're a human. You can do. I can do this too. Yeah, it lets me know that such things are possible, even if they have, you know, sort of withered on the vine over the last several generations. Anyway, JPS, good afternoon. And Assassin of the Gray, it might happen, so we need to panic because Orange Man bad. Right, because obviously this monument deals with a significant piece of history regarding Black Americans and civil rights. Obviously, it is the first to be on the chopping block if Donald Trump gets his way, because as we know, Donald Trump went out of his way during the course of his first administration to do away with every single thing that uplifted, promoted, or remembered Black people. As we know, which is why, thanks to the bulwark for telling me, his voters' share with minorities went up between 2016 and 2024. Anyway. Let's see. Well, that's the show, guys. That's pretty much it. Advocates Diablo, I noticed they did not list his home in Chicago in that list of Emmett Till monuments as in danger. Well, I don't know if they can well, I guess they could defund the city of Chicago. I mean, Trump could try, and then a district judge would probably block it. Entirely possible. Advocates Diablo, Emmett Till is not a part of my personal past. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what that guy meant by my personal past. I have no personal past with Emmett Till. I have no personal past with Jim Crow or slavery. It was all gone and settled before I even showed up. So, but I'm sure somehow through my melanin count, the mystic chords of memory connect me to such crimes and injustices. But anyway, guys, that is the show. Oh, I wanted to show off something real quick. So, if you did not catch the Midnight's Edge in the Morning broadcast this morning, I woke up. Well, I didn't wake up. Since I didn't sleep last night, I was up, quote unquote, early this morning. And I saw a news story about the box office results of the latest Disney Pixar film, Elio, and they were not good. And knowing that Monday is box office day on Midnight's Edge in the Morning, I pre-prepared a poster. A little poster joke just for Midnight's Edge in the Morning, because I had a feeling that I'd have the opportunity to show it off and I'd have it ready as a joke. So here it is for Elio. E-L-I-O. Elio, except I made it Failio. And the original subheading there said, it was something like outer space called the wrong number. And so I show this poster off, and I got some compliments. But then Andre's like, hey, can you make a 1080 by 720 version of that so I can use that for the thumbnail of an upcoming video on the box office failure? And I was like, sure. How do I take this image and make it a 1080 by 720? I didn't know. And I'd already closed my Photoshop assets and everything, so I didn't really have a way to mess with it. So I was like, okay. So if you listen to today's show and you didn't hear me talking for a good portion of the first half of the show, it's because more often than not, I am not as educated on box office results and histories in order to contribute anything meaningful. But today in particular, it's because I was off to the side trying to fulfill a request. And it took a lot of thingamajigging because I'm not an expert at this. And so I did this. I found a wide-scale version of that without any text at all. That was originally with no text whatsoever. And so I had to make that happen. And I'm kind of proud of it. I think it looks pretty legit. I might, if I had to go back, I could still go back, but if I had to go back, I'd probably put a little bit more space. Well, except the font on the one side is as space as it's going to be. Anyway, so that was that. Anyway, some version of this is going to be used soon in a Midnight's Edge commentary video. So just thought I'd show that off. But anyway, there you go, guys. That's the show. Any other programming notes? Oh, yes. So unless something changes, because it did change last week, unless something changes, and I'll give notice if I know it, I will not be here Saturday. Saturday is going to be a visit with Papa Scribe and Mama Scribe. Sister Scribe and I are going to go take a trip. So I won't be here Saturday. Whether or not I do a Sunday stream in recompense for there not being a Saturday stream will depend on my energy level getting home Saturday night. And I'll try to let people know otherwise. Elsewise, I might take the whole weekend off. We'll see. But the next time you can see me online doing streams and stuff, at least planned-wise, unless I do some kind of ambush thing, will be Wednesday morning at 9:05 a.m. Pacific Time, noon 05 p.m. Eastern Time on Midnight's Edge in the morning. And then, of course, Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for TED Excellence. We'll watch another off-brand TED Talk, maybe an actual TED Talk, we'll see, for education and enlightenment and bingo. And then, of course, Friday, Midnight's Edge in the morning again, as long as everything lines up. So, with that, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the GoFundMe's pinned to the top of the chat box, thank you guys so much for your generosity. Very much appreciated. Hey, did you know I have a Discord server? Well, I have a Discord server. Would you like to join the Discord server? I'll put a link to the Discord server in the chat right now. Click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you're not a bot. Actually watch the stream and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is discriminatory. I don't even know if it's a real word, but we read it today. So just say hello, discriminatory, or something similar enough that I know that you watch the show, and you'll become a member of the Discord server. The secret word process is actually working. We had someone who tried to get in through through no fault of their own, I'm sure, but through a spam notification, and they had no idea what I was talking about when I said secret word. So that kind of helped keep everything kosher. Beyond that, if you'd leave a like on your way out, I'd appreciate that. If you'd like to share the stuff out with people you think might like it, or even people you think might not like it, I'd appreciate that too. But everyone, hope you have a good rest of your day. Hope you have a good rest of your week. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.